Scolari was having troubles. But around this time of the season, you look at the bottom of the table for clubs who are in trouble. You think, right, they're going to make a change now. But certainly there was a bit of unrest falling out from that draw against Hull at the weekend. But it has happened very quickly. You just wonder whether they've spent the last 24 hours, 48 hours since that result looking to see if there are any replacements out there, then acting on that, and we wonder whether there will be a replacement quite quickly.
And what sort of talks have been going on over the past couple of weeks anyway? We just look at some of the back papers even today. This is the Evening Standard today. The Chelsea title dream looks over, said Zola. Of course, obviously this is just broken, so it's not even in the Evening Standard yet. But the headlines have not been very good recently.
No, certainly with them dropping points again, Liverpool and Manchester United winning again, it looks increasingly like a two-horse race, and we're barely out of January, and that will not have gone down well with Chelsea fans who have such high aspirations. And then you go a little bit higher to Roman Abramovich, who we haven't seen around the club very much recently. Sometimes you read too much into that and think, oh my word, you know, the owner's turned his back on the club, what's going to happen next? But he does generally take a long break over Christmas, so he'll take his holiday around now, but something's broken.
And interesting the contrast with, say, Manchester United, where Sir Alex Ferguson seems to have been for forever, and here's Chelsea now, what, 3 managers in what, a very short space of time.
Yeah, about 18 months or so. Mourinho to Grant and then to Scolari. Well, they struck gold with Jose Mourinho, didn't they? Chelsea, getting rid of Claudio Ranieri, who did very well. He got them to a Champions League semi-final, second in the league, but they felt, right, we can do a little bit better. Brought in Jose Mourinho, and suddenly Chelsea's first title in 50 years or what have you, back-to-back league titles. But then suddenly Jose Mourinho started getting a little bit too big for his boots perhaps, and then he left very unceremoniously. At the beginning of last season they brought in Avram Grant to sort of hold the reins. So they're looking for the Mourinho factor again. They thought it was Luiz Felipe Scolari. It wasn't, but now we're racking our brains to see, well, who on earth can fill those boots, you know, to fill Chelsea's massive expectations of where they think they belong in the league.
What about the timing in the season as well? What effect does that have when you change managers at this point?
Well, it's not going to help at all. I mean, you can either galvanise the team, think, right, let's do all this together, because there was a point when Luiz Felipe Scolari raised this himself in a couple of press conferences that I attended. He says, well, look, is it the players' fault? But I understand, I'm backing club football, it's my fault if things don't work, but when they had all this trouble with how they should defend against these silly goals that they were giving away, he said, right, it's down to me, I take full responsibility, let's start this season again, we'll do it my way. If that doesn't work, then I hold my hands up. Well, clearly the bosses above him listened to that, and they thought, well, it ain't working, so we are going to blame you, and we're going to try and fix this. But it is odd, because they've only got 13 or 14 games left of the season, so what can be achieved by having a massive upheaval above the players at management level?
Okay, if you're just joining us, you can see it on the screen there. The Chelsea manager, Luiz Felipe Scolari, has been sacked with immediate effect. The club's website, there it is, said he's brought many positives to the club, and there is a sense of sadness the relationship has ended, but unfortunately the results and performances of the team appear to be deteriorating at what they're describing as a key time in the season. And to keep the challenge up for the trophies, they felt the only option was to make the change at this point in time.
Yeah, and the website going on to say, as you would expect, the search for a new manager has already started. Chelsea Football Club saying they hope to have someone in place as soon as possible, and while that search for a new manager does continue, assistant coach Ray Wilkins is going to take charge of the team on a temporary basis. So turmoil at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, we'll bring you plenty more on that as it comes in to us. And I think I just want to tell you one other piece of sports news. You may have seen on your ticker there that Tony McCoy has won his 3,000th race at Plumpton. We'll bring you a bit more on that in a few minutes. Just to let you know that he did, because we were waiting for that, but he has now achieved that win. Right, let's go back to Chelsea then.
Yeah, so we're talking to Ollie Foster about that turmoil at Stamford Bridge, as we say. And I suppose some fans would say this hasn't been a disastrous season for Chelsea. It's just by their remarkably high standards, they are a little bit off the pace, but it's still within reach.
Yeah, I mean, of course, mathematically they can still do it. United get a couple of injuries. I mean, they're looking very strong at the moment, aren't they? Almost ominously so, Manchester United to win the title again. But in a couple of weeks' time, Chelsea have got it's the first knockout round of the Champions League, and they've got Juventus coming up against an old manager, Claudio Ranieri, then, and they are still in the top 4 of the Premier League, which is where every team pretty much wants to be. So yeah, they've done incredibly well. So I mean, when we read into this, has another man become available that Chelsea want? Do they write off this season and I think, right, we need this other man now because he's available, so we sack Scolari, we pay the cost of buying him out of his contract, and we get this other man? Or has Scolari, who is pretty upfront, honest, no-nonsense kind of bloke, you know, he calls a spade, and, you know, has he actually said, right, I've had enough of this nonsense, this club lark isn't for me at all? He's had enough of Didier Drogba sulking in a corner, perhaps. He's had enough of trying to get all these multi-millionaires playing as they should all together. Has he fallen out with John Terry, the club captain? But not from what John Terry, Frank Lampard, the top guys at Chelsea have been